Okay, and welcome to the director's commentary for Quest for the Space-Time Wizard. This was the first short film that I had attempted making in 4 years. It was just a little over 4 years between the release of Vestibule and the release of this one. There's Maxwell Norton making his return from Vestibule. He and I were the only voice actors that were in both. Now, I'm sure that the first thing that a lot of you will notice is the difference in presentation. I want to take a second, pause that thought for a second to recognize Peter Ovard voicing Danny and Daniel Andrew voicing Calvin. They both did fantastic jobs. I had people in mind for them for years. There was never any released project with these two characters. But I knew who I wanted to voice them, and they were both unavailable at the time. So I had to recast these two. And I was really happy with it. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if I stuck with Daniel to voice Calvin with all projects in the future, because he absolutely crushed it. Everybody did an amazing performance. I genuinely was so giddy listening to their voice lines while we were recording them. But I think Daniel's performance as Calvin, it just works. As I was saying, the presentation of this all, it's not fully animated and whatnot. That was a creative choice. It definitely helped with time and effort as well. I don't think I would have been able to get this done in the 6 or 7 months that I did without it. But it was a creative choice, inspired by the works of Greg Hoffman, who is he's given a special thanks in the credits for that reason. I also paid tribute to his works by working one of his jokes into the final scene, which I'll point out when we get there. It's the necromancy joke.
What about it? Looks person-sized? No. Ooh, you're right. What? You want to climb?
I had a lot of fun with this one. This was the first project that I wrote with the mindset of, I'm going to write something that I want to watch. And this was mostly an exercise in writing. That was my biggest focus while working on this. The only thing I think I would do differently if I were to make this again is do another draft. This script was a first draft script, and I think it turned out really good for that. It makes me wonder how much better could it have turned out if I gave it more than one draft. Here we have Balgata. He was a fan favorite. He and Danny are the two characters I hear about the most from people who watched it, just talking about characters they love. Balgata's voice, his iconic voice, was actually the first thing that I had in mind for this movie. I was just doing this voice to myself. It's a voice that I've been doing for a few years. It makes one of my friends specifically laugh every time. And I was playing with the voice, and I was like, if I ever do another movie, I'm gonna have a character that talks like this, and it'll just be a joke. And I wasn't picturing it being a main character like Balgata was, but that is what ended up happening. And I think it turned out really good. I was worried that the voice was going to get super annoying, get old really fast, and maybe it was for some people. But, I mean, I listened to it almost every day for 5 or 6 months, and I never got sick of it. I think it is pretty funny, and it was more well received than I thought. Balgata was a more lovable character for most people than I expected he was going to be.
It will take time, but each new task brings with it
It's the Questmaster bit. I thought the series of Questmaster jokes were very funny. I was happy with that. I liked the premise of he's like a holographic projection, and he's all you can see. And here's the most, this is the most blatant. So Calvin's story, I just gave, you know, some basic general thought to all the stories. Like, what do I want to do with these? Calvin's got the most thought was, you know, I kind of want to base this off of just the state of, like, adventure video games and common tropes found in them. RPGs. You know, things that you commonly see that just don't get changed up much, like these simple, pointless fetch quests that was very inspired by, like, the World of Warcraft formula and the XP and everything. I also tied in some themes. I think arguably the biggest themes of it are just the way that games and media are formatted now to give us just consistent dopamine rushes. Here we start with Danny's story. I really loved just throwing out the notion of everything needs to make sense. And obviously there are things that need to make sense in a story. There are things that, you know, you don't want to lose the audience. But there are some things that just aren't as big of a deal and they don't have to make as much sense. And once I recognized that and started acting on that, I think I had some really good jokes, such as Danny falling from the sky, which is hilarious. And then here we start. The story of Josh and Gaylord. I put in the name Gaylord for this character because I thought Gaylord is kind of a cool name. Obviously, there's jokes to be made about it. I thought it was kind of a cool name. And so I wanted to put it in because, few as they may be, there are people in the world named Gaylord. And I thought, how funny would it be if they could watch this and be like, hey, that person has my same name. I hardly ever see that. The only Gaylord I've ever seen in any piece of media is from Meet the Parents. I called him Gaylord because I thought that was how it was pronounced. I was like, it's pronounced Gaylord. And people always read it and think Gaylord. And that's why it has such a, you know, jokeable reputation. I was like, no, that can't be right. It's pronounced Gaylord. And so I was very adamant about that with all the voice actors. And then I showed the script to somebody. And they were reading it, and they were like, this guy's name is Gaylord? And I was like, it's pronounced Gaylord. And he's like, no, it's not. I thought, what? And I looked it up, and it is, in fact, pronounced Gaylord. So, but we're going to ignore that. This is some Gaylord representation. So, you know, big appreciation to all my Gaylords in the audience.
Maybe you've never met a Gamelin before, but I sound very normal. You're the one who sounds weird to me.
Yeah, alright. Just think that sentence. You don't need to say it.
I love that line. Dude, Daniel has so many great deliveries in this. Everybody has great deliveries. There were so many lines where I would put it in, and when I was animating that part, I just watch it over and over again. And even after I finished it, I would go back and watch it over and over again. Because I thought the delivery of the line was so funny. And that one is one of my favorites. And here we have the first and probably only front-facing walking shot.
Buddy, I'm surprised you covered that much ground to begin with.
I remember animating this in, and
Did you ever play Dance Prancer as a kid?
as I was like setting up the shot, I was like, this is going to be good. We'll have some more variety in the shots. That's good. That's what I want.
Sure, I'll find one eventually.
But,
Sure, it'll be out here though.
and it didn't end up going very far. I kind of just went back to the walking from left to right, which I think worked fine.
Oh yeah, right. We gotta get you to your friends.
Here Josh pours a bucket of water on the fire. That was not in the script. That was something I thought of when I was animating them leaving. And I was like, Josh needs something to do when Gaylord's picking up the giant bag and putting it on his back.
That's alright.
So I thought, oh, you know, it's the responsible thing to do, to put the bucket of water, you know, to pour water on the fire. You're supposed to do that before you leave a fire that you built. I wanted to put that in to just, you know, promote responsible campfire thinking, which meant that I had to go back into scene one and add the bucket in there.
Saying you've never tried taking an allergy pill or something like that?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, that's okay.
which was easy. I did something different with this one that I didn't do with the process of any of the other ones, in which every scene, I had this whole thing split up into 7 scenes, 7 sections. Every scene has...
That's a good question.
No, I started that sentence wrong. I was listening to the characters. That was my mistake. Every scene I made in its own project folder. I used Adobe Animate to do this. And I made a separate project folder for every scene. And then I saved all the scenes. I bought a thumb drive, and I saved all the scene projects to the thumb drive when I finished the scene. So then if I need to go back and change anything, I can, because I can just bring in the scene. So it was really easy. And I highly recommend that. I'm sure that's fairly standard, you know, save everything that you're working on in case you need to go back. But that just wasn't part of my production loop before. It was something new I tried with this one. I'm really happy with it. And it's kind of cool because now I have this thumb drive that just has the entire movie on it, which is fun. I was really happy with the scene where all of their stories intersect at the cliff, where they all just barely miss being there at the same time. I thought it was fun. I was very proud of this camera angle. I thought it was fun. But yeah, I think another thing, if this wasn't a first draft script, if I did a couple more drafts, I probably would have tried to have at least one more scene that was like this, where their stories kind of interweave. Which I guess I did with them joining for the last time definitively at the entrance to the cave tunnel hole. So actually I probably wouldn't. I probably would keep that aspect the same.
Are you sure I can't help you carry that? No, don't touch it, please. Okay.
What are you doing?
My friend was passing by down there.
This was also, I was very happy with this. This was the first project that I have published where the characters don't have perfect circles for heads. Instead of just making a perfect circle and drawing their head around it, I drew the head shapes on my own. And I really liked it. It gives a more, you know, not cartoony, because cartoons usually have straight, fine lines, but it gives it that kind of more homemade feel. I like it. I like the appearance. And the fact that I hand drew all of the backgrounds without using any straight line, like square or circle tools or anything. I think it was fun. I think it was nice. You know, there's an asymmetry to all of the Gebling houses, and I like that.
But I don't think it's for me. In the words of a very
I think
wise
it's
man,
nice.
"We've got bigger fish to fry."
Right. Alright. I can live with that.
Belgada, buddy. I gotta admit.
I also drew everything new. I'm also used to, and you can totally see this with
I did, at least at the
with
start.
Vestibule,
I don't know. They feel like I'm just doing the same
is...
thing every time now. Do small tasks. Get little
Hold
old
on.
thingies. Repeat, but don't rinse. That'd make it too fresh.
I was happy with that line. I was proud of that one. I came up with that one all on my own. I mean, I came up with most of them all on my own. Almost all of them. Probably except for the necromancy line. All of the jokes I came up with. Of course. Obviously, I wrote it. I was really proud of that repeat but don't rinse. That make it too fresh. I thought that was funny. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, you could go back and notice with Vestibule is I drew the character heads once at the beginning. You know, when I need them, I drew the heads. I made the perfect circle. I drew their hair around it.
In the middle of something.
With Jeffrey, I drew his glasses onto the head.
Okay, how do you turn this thing off?
And then I just copy-pasted the same head throughout the whole thing. But with this one, I redrew the head and the hair and everything every time. And I thought it was really nice. And you notice a kind of like neat evolution with the characters. Like the shape of Calvin's hair kind of changing and then staying there consistently. It's fun. I was also really happy with that joke of the Questmaster's kitchen catching fire and the fire spreading and all you can see is the Questmaster. That was another one I put in because I thought it was funny. I was worried about whether or not people would catch on. But they did. People seemed to get it, and it was really good. And I think it's a great setup for the last Questmaster bit at the end.
Alright.
What is
this is another thing I think I would do differently if I were to remake this, is in my mind, I didn't do it just to save time, because, you know, the deadline was fast approaching. I set myself a solid deadline that I wasn't able to move. But in my mind, as I was writing this scene, the house was a lot smaller and very cluttered. You know, stuff all over the walls and you know, like rugs and stuff on the floor to kind of fill out the scene more. This house is very minimalist, and I think I would do that differently if I were to... Okay, well, this is a contradiction. I just talked about not using perfect shape tools, but this is all made with perfect shape tools. Maybe I'm just forgetting what I was thinking when I was working on it. Maybe I'm just thinking of the Gebbling village, which makes sense for them. But yeah, I was picturing like, oh, stuff, you know, much more cupboards on the walls and lots of stuff on the counters and like a clock and a painting on the wall and stuff like that. And you can see on the right a hallway that goes to a staircase, and the hallways also, it has like a dresser and stuff on the walls. And you can also see the other side of that same hallway from this camera angle. You know, it'd be more on the left. And it kind of gives an idea of just how small the house is. And I wish that I did that, at least with the size, you know, if not the clutter, at least with the size, because it emphasizes the joke of, now there's a whole nother person in here. That was another one I was really proud of.
So what? Now I'm just walking?
Okay, I'll tell you what. Technically, the Balgata voice was the first thing that I had for this movie. Before I had an outline or anything, and it was just a list of things that I thought would be funny, some of which were used in the script and some of which weren't. Balgata's voice was the first thing on that list. Technically, the thing I came up with the first, or the earliest, was this song that Danny's singing about La Cucaracha being the only words in Spanish that he knows. I thought that was hilarious. I came up with that maybe 2 years ago, and I thought it was so funny, and I didn't have anywhere to use it, and there's hardly any context that in a conversation where that would come up, you know, where I could use that joke. So I just kind of been holding it in the back of my head, waiting for a good opportunity to use it. I think this was a great one. I'm really glad that I held on to that so that I could bring it into this project. I thought it was really funny. I thought it was good for Danny too, especially.
I'd rather just keep walking.
Okay, that's okay. Don't worry. It will all be worth it once we get to the space-time wizard.
Yeah, okay.
Seriously, Gaylord, are you sure?
No. Stop asking, please.
Hey, so tell me about this space-time wizard. What's he like?
I've only heard rumors, never met him.
I'm a big fan. One thing I kind of had in mind, because obviously when you think of wizard, and this is true for me as well, you think of an old man in a cloak with a pointy hat.
Sorry, we can take a breather if you want.
No. I can keep going.
But I wanted the space-time wizard to be less of just a guy with magic capabilities, and it's more of a business. And you could tell he kind of runs it like a business because he greets them in a very formal way, like someone would greet a customer entering a shop. And he's got STW for Space-Time Wizard advertised big on his tower. I really like the idea of, oh yeah, this is just what he does. Obviously, he doesn't need to make money because he's the Space-Time Wizard. He can summon and do whatever he wants. But he has this ability, and he is, you know, he's open to granting people's wishes. And so he advertises this big tower that he's built. I liked this shot. It's very simple, but regardless, it is the most effort that I've put into a landscape drawing or a background or anything like that. And I was very happy with it. I thought it was nice. I've been getting more into drawing detailed backgrounds. Hence why there are backgrounds in this movie, as opposed to Vestibule, where it's just white boxes.
space.
Cool. You coming with? Yeah.
Yeah, I was happy with that one.
I just want to sit.
I also I saved that image on its own. I like took Calvin out of it, so it was just the landscape, and saved that image on its own. And I have a
I'll hold on to this rock.
I have a version of it that's in 4K as well, or I think it's in 4K. I might have done it in 2K.
All right. This should be easy.
High quality, higher quality than any of this is in.
Tunnel. Isn't a cave a one-way kind of formation? I don't know enough about topography for that. Topography? Geology? What's the term? Oh, hey Josh.
This whole joke about whether or not it's a cave or a tunnel and what the difference is. I think it technically is a tunnel because it has two ends, but I don't. No, that was a joke I wrote in and then I never actually looked into it. So I'd be interested in hearing if anybody knows off the top of their head.
No, though. I'm not going to be able to stop thinking about it now.
I was also really happy with this monster design that I did. I thought he was fun. Big,
I'm Josh, by the way.
Nice to meet
big
you.
fuzzy monster with these odd-shaped eyes. I just like the shape of him.
It's gaining. We gotta do something.
The tower is just right
He, like, it's like a giant
I'll hold it off.
Wait, Danny.
gumdrop with arms.
All I am. Fear me.
And they're big arms. The arms are huge. I really liked that. I also want to call attention to this animation of
there. That was my only idea.
Servant grabbing the rock while he's running and spinning and throwing it. That was in the script to show up once. And then I thought of this joke where the clip is just reused. And I thought, that's great. So that's not in the script, but it's in the editing. And I thought it was a good joke, but I was also happy to put the joke in because
Welcome in. I see you've made yourselves comfortable.
it meant that I could show off the animation more than once. And I was really proud of that animation.
How are you guys doing today?
You grant wishes, right? Can I please have a dance pad? I'm trying to play Dance Prancer, but I'm missing a dance pad.
Yeah, sure, I guess.
Haha, sweet! Finally!
Space-Time Wizard, voiced by Michael Kemp.
Is it true you have a storage hole?
He was a co-worker. That was where I met him. Most of the people in this were
Simply throwing all my belongings into the storage
just
and
friends
selling them.
or co-workers.
That's so cool.
The only person in it that I would consider an actor. I mean, Mike had done voice acting work before, but
Guys, you made it.
it was Maxwell because,
Welcome.
you know,
Do you have a request too?
Oh man, dude.
we're like acquaintances.
I want you to
The first time I really had a conversation with him was inviting him to be on Vestibule, and then
What?
after the Vestibule premiere,
No? Are you
the recording lines for this was the first I had talked to Maxwell since then.
Can't do necromancy?
Of course not. I'm a space-time wizard.
But yeah, Mike
If I could,
is a coworker.
necromancy
I work with
would
him, and
have
I
a
see him
license
do
to
customer service. And so when I had the thought of
Do necromancy.
the Space-Time Wizard
So I came all this way from
is more of a businessman, and he's very formal, like a business owner greeting a customer,
find someone who can do necromancy.
that was when I would hear
Warriors, you could get
Mike just at work over the headset, and I was thinking, this guy's perfect.
Hey man, do you have a wish?
And he did a great job. He was very casual with it, and I really liked that.
What? But what about being super bored? This was supposed to make you happy. That was my whole job.
That's just it.
And here's coming back to that media presentation dopamine hit allegory that I was talking about. Obviously, this is very simplified. That's a nuanced and complicated issue, and it would take much more than,
Great news! Did you hear that?
you know, what, 8 or 9 minutes?
I did it.
Less than that to make a meaningful commentary on it. But
What about you?
with it being very simplified in this, I gave a very simplified solution. That being, if you just keep feeding into the dopamine loop, you're gonna get exhausted from it, and it's gonna wear you down and desensitize you. Just go outside.
He's right, actually.
Go outside and take things slow and appreciate the slow things. I thought it worked great.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. They did it this morning. Yeah, because you went back and made them angry. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. That's what? Why don't we just?
I was quite happy with
They stopped making them years ago.
this
You
time
can only
travel
get them
solution.
secondhand if
I
they
think there's a lot of drama to come from
always has.
systems of time travel where you go back in the past and you change the future.
All right, Danny.
Um,
My wish. Excellent.
But I've always been big on this one, where the future is set, and the current events and the time travel that takes place is just going to reinforce the future that's already set. I really like that system, and that's what I did here.
He's been going around snatching items from people's carts.
Is we don't even need to think about a timeline in which,
All right. I'll keep an eye out.
Thanks.
you know,
What?
there was no angry mob that Josh ticked
wait a
off
second.
and they still get to the wizard somehow. There's none of that.
Take me back.
Because
Take me back. Take me back. Take me back.
no matter what, Josh is always going back and
Thank you, Josh.
making the mob angry.
No problem. All's well.
I like that. I thought that was nice.
Did you have a wish?
I did.
I like that system.
You, sure, whatever. Right, what's all? What'd you wish for?
That's another one of the jokes that after I finished, I just watched it over and over again because I thought it was so funny. It's obviously very extreme.
Said I could come live with you guys.
And I was a little nervous about that because I knew that I had young cousins and,
He's an adult.
you know, friends with children and whatnot that were going to be watching it. I didn't know if their parents were going to be okay with them seeing jokes like that, but I think it was fine.
Are you gonna share a room with him? I'm not. And I don't
It's,
think that's unfair to
you know, morbid. It's not as morbid as what's in Gaylord's bag, but... Which, fun story about that, I showed the first 3 scenes of this to my girlfriend as I was working on it, and then I was like, no more, you get to see the rest. We both agreed she wanted to see the rest at the end, but she predicted that his sister was in the bag,
Carrying that with you the whole time?
and I was like, no, that's not true, and I totally gaslit her the whole time. It was very funny. And yeah, and then now we get to listen to the theme song by Ryan Romero, which I think he did a great job. I also really liked just the presentation of these credits. Okay, and we're back. Where I knew, I told Ryan when he was composing the song, I want like a calm part, and then I want it to kind of transition into this big exciting thing. Hold that thought for a second. This was not in the script. This was something that my girlfriend came up with, like, as I was working on the scene before the credits. And I was happy that she did that, because I think it was a great joke to put in. But anyway, yeah, I asked Ryan to have half the song be this fun, jumpy, exciting thing, and I knew that's the part that I want to give to everyone else that was involved. And I really liked that I gave everyone attention. Everyone gets their own slide. And I was happy with that. I like to give attention to the people that work on these projects and help me bring them to life. And I think that's definitely something I'll continue doing in the future. Yeah. It was great. Yeah, overall, very glad that I went with this project and stuck it through to the end. I'm very glad that I finished it. And I'm glad that it seemed to be so well received. People seemed to love it, and that made me really happy, because I really loved it. And I had a great time making it. I think I learned a lot making it. All right. And that was the director's commentary for Quest for the Space-Time Wizard. If there's anything you were hoping to hear from this that you didn't get to hear, I have my business email address in the description of the video. You are welcome to email as many questions as you want to that email, and I will try to answer them all. Right now, that email doesn't get a lot of traffic, so I can guarantee that I'll answer them all, but we'll see. Maybe that'll change in coming years. Who knows? Thank you all for watching. I appreciate those of you who had the interest to watch a director's commentary. And, yeah.